explain, Gonzalo, the 15-year exemption for the rent control and why you support that? There are a lot of new units going online, new housing being built, and it would be 15 years until the tenants there would I guess, be able to breathe easy that their rent isn't going to go up more than 4%.
Well, what we've seen is in other communities where there was not that stipulation, there was a lot of pushback, and it impacted the development of new housing that is at market rate. And so what we're trying to do is we don't want to create a process that stifles new development. I believe that by leaving that window in conjunction with the creation of the municipal developer model, we can be building affordable and accessible housing that is at market rate and that will satisfy the needs of many of our renters and families without stifling mid and higher level developments happening elsewhere in the city.
Just so I understand what you mean by new units, like if this house that exists already is gutted and turned into apartments, would they get that 15-year exemption, or is it only if it's a brand new building?
If it's a brand new building.
How fast does... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, thanks, Steve. Yeah. Can you explain in layman's terms exactly how you would go about establishing rent control? What would that process look like?
Well, it would require an ordinance. And there's a possibility that it would require enabling legislation as well. And basically what you want to do is you want to make sure that renters have the opportunity to, you don't want to create a bureaucracy that's going to be regulating how much every single person is paying rent, but you give renters the opportunity that if their rent is raised more than 4% in a year, they have a claim process through the housing court or through district court that they can prove that their landlord is trying to raise their rent above what is stipulated by law.
And at a time when we're seeing property tax payments go up, I mean, theoretically property owners can say, well, I need to charge more because I can't afford all these payments on tax payments on the house or whatever they own. How do you strike a balance between like what's reasonable and what property owners might need to charge to pay their own expenses?
Guys, I own rental property myself, and I can tell you this. I realize property taxes go up, and that's painful. But rents have gone up at an obscene level compared to the increase in property taxes. Apartments in this neighborhood that were $900 18 months ago are $1,500 today. That does not respond to property tax increases. And I get it. I'm running for mayor, and I understand the mayor gets a lot of hits. And if you raise property taxes and the taxes on a 3-family home go up $1,500 a year, that's a lot of money. But when you divide that by the units, the many times landlords will use the pretext of tax increases to actually profit from rent increases. There actually many times rent will go up 2 and 3 times the cost of the property tax increase. And I realize we want people to build wealth. We want people to be homeowners. We want people to be able to own their home and prosper and enjoy, the wonders of homeownership. But we cannot continue to let an unsustainable model grow the way it's grown in Providence. The rents are too high, and the market has adjusted, and I believe that this is a very reasonable approach.
How fast after you're elected, if you're elected, how fast would we start building? Because a lot of the problems with the state plans and city plans is that it takes a lot of time, and we're talking 2 years out, 3 years out before we even start to see relief.
Well, yeah, I mean, there are a lot of different moving parts. The advantage that we have in Providence is that the Providence Redevelopment Agency, which was created, in the 1950s to eliminate blight, has a lot of power. Mm-hmm. It has bonding power, as we've already seen. It has eminent domain power. It has the ability to purchase properties, reassign properties, and I think that due to the flexibility, it would make sense for the model to center around the Providence Redevelopment Agency, and for us to really not, and like as I said earlier, we're not trying to create a new entity. What we're trying to do is we're trying to redirect and be purposeful with the tools that we have currently. And I believe that the Providence Redevelopment Agency is positioned to begin this work almost immediately. Obviously, there are a lot of steps involved that, you know, it's not something that it's not going to be turnkey overnight.
Sure.
But I would like to see construction within the first 6 to 12 months begin.
And getting landlords into court or to negotiate with tenants has always been kind of an issue, right? Even under existing law. How would Providence be able to increase enforcement of that to make sure that when we're talking about mandatory diversion, that we're getting the people in to where they need to go?
I think what we have to work closely with nonprofit and community partners that are already doing a lot of this work to educate the public and to also create a pipeline for response to residents. And also, you know, we're doing this. We want people to succeed. We want families to succeed, whether you're a family that owns a multifamily unit, you know, an owner-occupant, or whether you're a tenant. We want people to succeed. We're not trying to be punitive here,
Right.
you know. But the reality is that the economic dynamics that we're living right now are unsustainable for many of our families, and we need to change that.
Is this something the city solicitor might be getting involved in?
Absolutely.
Why do you think you might need enabling legislation from the General Assembly? Is there a state law that conflicts with this concept?
What I believe is that there are the powers of the PRA are not clearly defined in the enabling legislation, and I believe that with all types of initiatives, you know, there are a lot of vested interests in this process. As I explained earlier, you know, a small house like this makes a lot of people money in the private sector, in the development world, and there are going to be people that are not going to like this model, and we're going to have to be ready to fight back, and we're going to use all the tools that are at our disposal to make sure that this is successful. And if that requires legislative action, we'll go for the legislative action. If it requires council action, we'll have the council action.
Just to be clear, so do you think you need enabling legislation just for the public developer or also for the rent stabilization?
I think that would be probably for it may be for the rent stabilization. I believe we can move forward on the public developer model immediately.